Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center. And it's time to take a look at some of the best new knives to hit our shelves in February of 2020. From EDC pocket knives to tactical fixed blades. Let's check them out. So it's a really competitive time of the year as we're heavy with new product releases right now. A lot of the new model year stuff that was introduced at SHOT Show is making its way out to dealers now, and several of my favorites from SHOT Show came to us this month. The first is the Lion Steel Thrill. It's a slip joint, but it's unlike any other slip joint out there right now because it's an integral, meaning that the handle and the back spring are all a single piece of metal. It makes for stronger construction, but it's certainly more expensive to produce than a knife that's created with two different sides. That said, these aren't unreasonably priced in the realm of premium slip joints. Now the aluminum versions come in at about $120, but the titanium does reach a bit higher and that comes in at about $200. Now the blade steel is M390 with the drop point blade just under 3 inches long, which makes this a pretty high performance knife, but it's short enough that it's not really going to raise too many eyebrows. And certainly some of the really brighter colors available on the aluminum handle versions help with that a little bit too. And the action is nice and snappy. This is definitely a satisfying knife to operate, and for those of you who love a good operating slip joint, this knife really does the trick. But the other party trick that this knife has, as if the integral mechanism wasn't enough, is their H-Whale pocket clip, which is spring-loaded to pull flush into the handle when you're using the knife, but then it keeps it handy in your pocket so that you don't have to fish around to find it like a lot of old-school slip joints. Next is the Kershaw Lucha, which is raising the bar in the mid-range butterfly knife category. Now, this is a superbly made knife that doesn't have to make any excuses as to how it flips. This is a knife that you're not going to outgrow. Its action won't hold you back as you get better at flipping. That's partly down to the KVT bearings they use in the pivots on this knife, which helps to keep friction to a minimum as you're moving the knife. But it's also down to the solid and balanced materials that they use throughout. The handles are stainless steel, and they keep the weight down by milling out what they don't need, and that adds a little bit of traction in the process too. And the blade itself is really well executed. We've got a nice clip point shape using Sandvik's 14C28N steel with a full flat grind, which means that if you're going to actually use your bally for cutting tasks too, it's going to work quite well. Now the Lucha is not the cheapest balisong you can get. It does sit at about $120 right now, but it's an absolute bargain for what you're getting. The materials are great, it's going to grow with you as you learn, and it's certainly a lot less expensive than the other top flippers out there. Now this next knife has quickly vaulted to be one of my top recommendations for a survival or tactical knife under $50. It's the Cold Steel SRK Compact, priced just over $45. This knife has a carbon steel SK5 blade, 5 inches long, with a clip point and a sturdy mid-height flat grind. A great shape for hard use without being unwieldy. Now the handle is checkered Cray-X over a full tang, with a nice finger guard for good protection, but it's still small enough to mostly stay out of the way. Now while I tend to prefer a non-rubberized handle, this certainly is going to help you maintain a rock-solid grip, and it's something I'm willing to overlook on a knife that is just such a solid value as the srk-c. The sheath is even a really good proposition. Not an afterthought, but actually well thought out too. Got a nylon belt loop attached to SecureX synthetic, and the knife clicks into place with extra security from the snap loop around the handle. And the hole spacings on the sheath should even be Techlock compatible for even more carry options. Now, how about another solid survival knife, or knives actually? I've got here a new version of the SE6, representing the whole core lineup from the brand, the 3, 4, 5, and 6, that are now available with 3D machined handles, contoured perfectly for more comfort and security than the old flat handles. They're still made in the USA and still come with ESI's famous lifetime warranty, and you can get them with more colorful G10s and other blade coatings, but I'm partial to this more subtle one right here. Got a black coating on the 1095 carbon steel with a natural micarta handle. The upcharge over the flat-handled models, which are still available, is even very reasonable. This 6 in my hands right now comes in at about $144, less than $10 more than the cheapest 6 on our site right now. With this new upgrade, I think these are definitely one of the go-to recommendations for a hard-use American-made survival knife that aren't going to break the bank. All right, let's get back to folders, and I'm going to start with a high-value one from Sevilla. This is the Chronic Flipper, a cool new gentleman's pocket knife or office EDC for under $50. You can get it in this blue G10 that I have here, or a selection of other colors are available too. The clip is deep carry and reversible for both left and right carry, which keeps the knife nice and out of the way until you need it. And the blade itself hides almost completely in the handle when closed, giving this knife a nice clean look with only the flipper tab really sticking out. Fires out cleanly thanks to a ball bearing pivot, and the hollow ground clip point profile is ready to get cutting. The steel is 9CR18 MOV, which is a step up in edge retention from the more common 8CR13 MOV that you see all over the place these days, although a stainless Damascus blade is also available as an upgrade, and that version comes with a G10 and carbon fiber laminate for the handle, as opposed to the standard G10 if you want a fancier version. Now this next knife is on the opposite end of the spectrum from the Chronic. This is a dramatic return to form for zero tolerance knives. This ZT308 heralds the relaunch of the 300 series, which put them on the map, poetically coming in at $300. We've got big, beefy construction with this knife made right here in America, with the handles a combination of G10 on the front and titanium on the back. And both have been contoured and milled with a subtle and attractive pattern that gives you a good amount of grip when you're using the blade. That blade is about a 3 3/4 inch drop point and has a bit of a harpoon tip, and it uses CPM 20 CV steel for world-class performance. The magic is in the pivot though. We've got a really cool look with a handle pass-through, and KVT ball bearings ensure that it flips as good as it looks. And the pivot hardware itself is a solid 1/4 inch thick and can be adjusted with a standard 1/2 inch wrench rather than a Torx bit. Makes me think this would be a good, if not cheap, knife at the worksite or anywhere that tough jobs need to get done. Next is the new version of the Benchmade Presidio 2, a knife with just about as much blade length as the ZT, but with a narrower profile overall. It's cheaper too, coming in at just over $130, and it uses S30V blade steel in a versatile drop point shape. And the action on this knife is fast and smooth with Benchmade's axis lock. In fact, out of the box, this is one of the smoothest axis mechanisms I've ever felt. The weight of the blade helps out here a bit, but flicking the blade in and out on this knife is really addictive. Now the new handle material used on this knife is called CF Elite, which uses carbon fiber to reinforce the nylon material, making it strong and light. It lets them equip this knife with a fairly thick grip. You've got a very hand-filling profile without weighing things down too much. It makes this a workhorse that's ready to get down and dirty, and in terms of the hierarchy of the Benchmade brand, it makes a nice step up from the base models of the Benchmade Griptilian. Now the biggest surprise for me this month is how much I liked one of the new Boker releases, the Gulo Pro. Priced just under $100, some out there have complained that the materials aren't quite up to the price tag. We've got steel handles and a D2 blade, but as soon as I held one and started operating it, I was impressed by the premium feel and impressive action thanks to the ball bearing pivot. Even though this is a thumb stud folder, there's no flipper here. This really is a knife that feels more special than anything else out there I can think of for the same money. It even feels nicer than some of the high-end Chinese imports that cost up to $200. Granted, you'll be getting quote-unquote better materials there, but you won't exceed the fit and finish and tight tolerances that you can find with the Gulo Pro. But if you want that higher-end stuff, my favorite premium flipper this month is the Besttech Comos AX. This knife offers a fresh take on the Quaken style with a broad and dramatic upswept tanto with a large front bevel that mirrors and inverts the shape of the handle. It reminds me of a wing in flight, and it's very, very graceful in hand. The materials are up to par with the design and its price, which starts around $250 for some versions and go up to about $270 with this gold anodized titanium version. Blade steel is M390 with a hand-rubbed style horizontal satin finish, and behind the flipper tab is a set of ceramic bearings in the pivots that makes deployment a snap. With a unique shape like this, if you've been looking for something different in the sea of titanium frame lock flippers out there, the Comos AX would be a great choice. So that's the selection of my favorite stuff that I've seen in the last month. But what were your favorites? Have you been watching our new items videos? If so, you've seen a lot more than just this. Make sure to let us know in the comments your favorite things from February of 2020. In the meantime, if you want to get your hands on any of these, we'll leave links in the description below to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And I'll say it again, make sure you're signed up for our Knife Rewards program so that you can earn some money towards buying some future knives. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time. This knife has a carbon steel. Won't do that.
Please don't. It's tough enough to edit around you.
You ready for this? I didn't bring any lunch money today. First beans. I don't know what to do with my hands.